with Lords of the Fallen, the sequel to Lords of the Fallen, which came out almost a decade ago. 9 years to be specific. It is a bit weird to have a game named in the exact same fashion as the previous one, but I guess they didn't want to call it Lords of the Fallen 2. One, because it plays very differently than its predecessor in a significant number of ways, in particular death. And two, I imagine they decided not to do so because, well, the previous game didn't do so well financially. Like, it sold copies, but the reputation it had was a clunky game. It didn't run all that well. It wasn't that interesting. That was the perception of it. Now, I liked the previous Lords of the Fallen, but I'm guessing that the reason they decided to just use the same name is like just indicate that, yeah, they're making a completely different game. And it is a very different game. How would I describe this game if someone asked me? Well, imagine a game with the level of design of Dark Souls 1. And to understand how similar it is to Dark Souls 1, let me just go to one of the very first areas that you encounter in the game. Let me just go over here. You do have the ability of warping in from bonfires from the very start, like you could in Dark Souls 2. But level design-wise certainly feels a lot like Dark Souls 1. So, welcome to one of the first areas of the game, the lower Undead Berg, if you will. There's a lot of verticality. A huge amount of verticality. There's ladders, there's jump scare enemies, there's all kinds of things. There's enemies that will throw you off the ledge if you're not careful. You can throw them off the ledge yourself. Like so. Now, if you're not careful, they will throw you off the ledge. And look at that view. Well, it is fairly clouded, isn't it? I'm reminded of Anne Orlando for whatever reason. There's kick attacks, there's jump attacks. There's all those things you would expect from Dark Souls 1. But with the combat system, or the combat feel, if you will, of Elden Ring. So pretty solid game, really fun to play. I'm not sure how long it is. I mean, I've sunk a dozen hours and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. I could be wrong on that. Now, beyond the usual Dark Souls stuff, right? In terms of like just being able to build a character however way you want, having classes that only matter in terms of like the early game situation because eventually you can unlock all the weapons and all the gear. Though I think there are classes which you unlock dependent on the ending. For whom the gear that they get is going to be pretty difficult to unlock. Like, there's also advanced classes, like you've got the Stalker, who's like an advanced class, who apparently is not necessarily so easy to handle. But the unique aspect of this game is the lamp. So say hello to the lamp. Now, the lamp has a couple of abilities. It can pull the soul from an enemy temporarily. So for instance, let's say we got that big guy. We pull the soul, and we can stun him for a period of time, do some damage, and then he will reunite with his soul. The lamp has some level of customization, but it is a useful tool. And not just from a combat perspective. No, the lamp does far more than just being a gimmick in combat. Significantly more. And I'll demonstrate that once I can deal with this enemy. Oh, not enough charges. Need to increase my charges. But here's what the lamp does. When you die, you enter the Umbral realm. Now, what's the difference between the regular realm and the Umbral realm? Well, a significant amount, actually, and I'll just showcase that as I'm going to go get my souls back over there. Well, a significant amount. Umbral realm is more dangerous than the regular realm, the mortal realm, if you will. But it also presents terrain changes that help you navigate levels. Actually, this is required. Like, if you're going to beat this game, you're gonna have to deliberately go into the Umbral realm to get access to certain things inside of it. Okay. So I think okay. Probably. Probably that guy. Alright, but once you enter the Umbral realm, either by choice or because you died, levels will be different. As you can see over here. Pretty sure that's the enemy who killed me. Now this is not like Dark Souls in that, oh, you just need to hit the guy who killed you once and you'll recover your souls or something like that, right? Or they'll be lying on the ground. No! In this game, if a regular enemy kills you, you have to kill them. And you can see how much of an area has been unlocked over here because I just entered the Umbral realm. Now, while you're in the Umbral realm, these kind of zombie-like enemies will spawn. They're not really too much of a challenge, or at least they're not at the start. But they'll just keep coming. And they won't stop. They will never stop coming. And you're on a timer. Once that circle fills up over there, you're gonna get a really powerful enemy showing up to try and kill you. You can cheese it to get a significant amount of souls, or as it's called in this game, vigor. But generally speaking, that one is going to be pretty difficult. And you can't use healing items when he's spawned. You just need to kill him. But killing him once doesn't mean you're safe. No. There is a limit to how long you can spend in the Umbral realm. And now, how do you exit the Umbral realm? There are locations. There are locations in levels where you will find like a husk of a body. In the mortal realm, it doesn't do anything, but in the Umbral realm, you can use those locations to go back to the mortal realm. So let's say you die, you go in Umbral, then you find one of those locations, and then you can go get back to life. There's also a withered effect that this game has. So when you block an attack, so let's say we use this guy as an indication. When you block an attack, what happens is you get a withered effect. Now, the way this works is that you have a bit of time. You have time until you get hit. It doesn't to recover that HP. So much for his staff. So you can parry or block a significant number of attacks, significantly reduce the damage you're taking. Well, you are taking damage. Let me just kill the caster there. And get thrown off. I do like the fact that while there's certainly a good amount of verticality and you can fall down, well, when you go... If you do die, you will spawn... You'll spawn on a ledge in a safe place in Umbro. And this is one of those locations, one of those bodies that you can use to go back in the mortal realm. Now you can get parries, and you can stagger enemies as well, including bosses. And when you're staggering a boss, or you're staggering an enemy, what will happen in that situation is that you can do a finisher. I'm trying to get it done here. Alright, let's see if he... But basically a parry will result in less weather damage that you will take than normal. It is a way to significantly reduce the damage you're taking. Like, using a shield to block is not an I-win button in this game. You can dodge a lot of enemies, but I find that relying on taking weather damage and then recovery from that with fast attacks after, you know, the boss has done his combo moves or enemies have done their moves is a great way of handling things. And also, yeah, combo moves, because you do have... chain attacks, rather. And yes, you do have status effects. So that, in that sense, is Lords of the Fallen. Basically, Dark Souls 1 combined with like a combat system similar to Elden Ring. So a more limited world, not the open world that Elden Ring does have. Though technically all the Souls games are like open world one way or another. But you have a level design that just makes sense. The interconnected parts of a level. And yeah, I am leveling my strength there because I have a giant axe +2 that requires 22 strength to use, so I kind of want to use that. Seems very, very useful to do so. Also, yeah, weapons with level scaling as well to them that you might see in a Souls game. So, okay, magical attack. Let me see if there's a... Yeah, I should be able to hide here. Now, you do need a stat called Radiance in order to really get the full effect of things, but I do believe weapons do have level scaling. Yeah, you do see that. Like, you got Strength C, Agi D over here for the Avowed Mace. The axe, the raw Mangler axe, because it is a fire weapon, doesn't have that kind of effect. The Angel's axe doesn't have it, but there are weapons that do have stat scaling, and then there are weapons that don't have stat scaling, and that is something that's important to know. Like, yeah, it's basically what you would expect from a Souls game, in a lot of ways. Not sure if you can convert weapons as you could in Dark Souls 1. Like, you could make you could take something like a Claymore and make it Lightning Claymore if you wanted to. Not sure if that's available, but so far I think the game is great. It's fun, it's interesting. Now, reviewers have said, oh, the bosses aren't necessarily too interesting because their moveset is not that interesting. I think my perspective on this is, in Dark Souls, while obviously a lot of people talk about the bosses, Ornstein and Smaug, for instance, being one that is very popular with people that play Dark Souls 1, I'm of the perspective that while bosses are certainly important in a game like Dark Souls, I think what's more important in a game like this is like how the levels are designed. Like one of the things I heavily disliked about the first Dark Souls 3 DLC is, yeah, it had an awesome boss fight, but the level design, in general, level design in Dark Souls 3 felt lacking compared to Dark Souls 1. Better bosses, sure, but my perspective is like, it's level design, it's the atmosphere, it's the journey they experience along the way, like kicking an armored guy off a cliff or off a ledge over there. That's what makes these games interesting to play, from my point of view. So this is a lot of fun. I do enjoy it. It kind of feels like I'm finally playing a proper sequel, if you will, to Dark Souls 1. Because I don't dislike Dark Souls 2. I enjoy it far more than a lot of other people, but it's certainly not like Dark Souls 1. That's clearly the case. Like, imagine a more modern version with better responsiveness, better graphics than Dark Souls 1, and more than 60 FPS. Yeah, it's kind of sad that after so many years, like, if there's anything I will criticize from software is, like, the way they handle the frame rate, the limitation on that. I'm pretty sure I'm getting over 100 FPS right now in this game. While the response time, the input lag, is not great. I don't even want to think about how it would be if I used frame gen. Assume, like, you can, like, they put the patch where they disable frame gen, but you can roll back to it if you want to. Response times can be weak, but it certainly feels good when it runs well. There are areas where it doesn't run so well. Another unique thing is how bonfires, or, you know, respawn locations work. So you've got your regular respawn locations called vestiges, but you can also get like these kind of bodies in the ground. You can only have one active at the time, so which one you have active is where you will respawn, where you can teleport. Well, you need to use it in order to spawn there. But you can't. But you will find these kind of locations, these kind of patches of flowers, that you can use an item, a consumable. I only have one, so I'm not going to use it there. And you can summon an NPC phantom. Only one, sadly enough. You don't get. Like, one of my favorite moments in the Souls series was like playing Dark Souls 2, and
just remember
what I was. Oh, I'm dead already. Just rolled into his charge. Great. That was. That was certainly great. Just gotta be careful. And, well, so much for being careful, I guess. Yeah, bosses will kill you quickly in this game. An interesting thing, though, is like some bosses do require you to basically fight in the Umbral Realm. This one doesn't, but you do benefit from being in the Umbral Realm because there's all those parasites around that you can utilize. And I think, like, they won't do damage to the boss, but the way they will work is that they can stagger the boss a bit, especially when he's getting on his horse. It's like dealing with the Nameless King a bit, actually. To be quite honest with you. Which, well... Not sure I wanted that in in a Souls game again. Okay. Alright, so I summoned an NPC. Like, you can summon, like, you meet NPCs and you can summon them to the major boss fights. Not every boss fight. Whoa, that was a bad one. Where's my souls? Give me my souls back, you little Well, I died close to the entrance. Alright, he's gonna get back up on his horse. But I can destroy one of those and... yeah. Ooh, I am dead. He did a massive screw you attack. Right there. Fun stuff. Welcome to Dark Souls 2. The real Dark Souls 2. That's how I probably would describe this in a lot of ways. Go see signing out. Stay tuned for more.